Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Thank you all for joining us. Katie Roach, thank you. Everyone else is taking a long weekend, Katie, so it's you and I. Ready? You ready for ready to go to work?
Yeah, not as much information today, but it's still going to be fun. We've got a little bit of information on especially some things about the 1099. So we'll see if we can clarify some things and go over some questions.
I appreciate all your questions. We will answer them the best to our knowledge. Some of them are still a gray area, but we're going to do that. Hey, don't forget your certificates. Download those for your audit purposes. But I want to ask some questions. I want to focus on questions. And the first question is, how long is it taking you to get forgiveness approved from SBA? Over a week, yeah. And actually, Joseph, that was a wrong poll question. The poll question is, how long does it take for the PPP second draw applications to get approved? Can you do that one real quick for us?
No, that one's the last one.
There's three. We have that in there?
Yeah, that question's in there too.
All right, then I'm not following this.
We'll get there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go number two. Actually, go back to. I'm not being. Go back then to number one. Can you put the results back on the board, Joseph?
Yeah, let's run this poll and then we'll do that.
Okay, because I want to comment on this. What percentage of your PPP loan requests have been denied? Here we're talking second draw. And interesting, 6% or over 10%. 40 half have experienced some denials. We'll talk about that. It looks like 10% are under that. So these loans are being denied. We're going to talk about reasons. We're going to talk about what to do when that happens. So, and on the forgiveness apps, Joseph, if you can put up those answers. Okay, so I have, according to this, 50% are being done with the 7 days. So that's positive, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it's taking so long, but as long as the SBA is processing these and getting them out, I think that's the biggest thing is people want to know whether or not they got forgiveness and get the answers back quickly. Over a week is unfortunate, but, those 2, 3, and 4 to 7 days, that's a big portion of them as well, and I'm glad they are managing to get some of those out.
Yeah, and I've got several questions that people said, hey, it's taking me, I've submitted it 4 or 6 weeks ago, I haven't heard anything. And the answer, just give them a nudge and say, hey, did you get it? Are you working on it? What can I provide? And send it to those emails. Okay, here we go. How long is it taking SBA to approve your second draw loans? This came up yesterday with John Riosti. A banker was complaining about it, but they got him approved within 2 days over the long weekend. And just out of curiosity, okay, 50% are under 2 days, so that's good. And some are still straggling on that. I think those are, especially the over 4 days, 20%, that's higher than I would like to see. But hopefully their systems get better tuned. All right, what do we got here, Katie?
So this is IRS guidance. I think it kind of slipped under the radar. I think it came out earlier this week. I couldn't confirm what day, but the IRS issued guidance clarifying that SBA payments on existing 7A and 504 loans, those Section 1112 payments from the CARES Act are no longer considered taxable income to the borrower. So as a result, lenders will no longer be required to provide 1099 forms to the borrower for those Section 1112 payments.
And let's focus on that last one because I've had several questions. This does not affect your 1098 where the borrower has made loan payments and there's interest. So yes, you need to report that, but that's the 1098. On what is the interest income that they've paid to you, we want to report that. But the 1099s, you do not have to report them. We have another slide on that. Actually, there was a notice that was buried as well. So, in fact, yeah, let's go to that notice now. It's notice 5000-2067. It is attached, so you can download that. And what do we have here, Katie?
So lenders are responsible for issuing those 1099s for loans that have not been purchased by the SBA and loans that have been purchased by the SBA and are serviced by 7(a) lenders. So the SBA, though, is responsible for issuing them in cases where they have purchased or they are servicing those loans.
Which is the predominant number. Yeah. Yeah, the Treasury will be doing that, so you're not responsible for that. And also, SBA will be issuing the 1099s on 504 loans that have also defaulted and are charged off. So once you send it to Treasury and you wash your hands of it, you're not responsible for the 1099, correct, Katie?
Right. So it's only if the SBA is, if you're still handling it, if you're still, that it's not been purchased by the SBA and you are still handling the servicing and things like that, you're going to be issuing those 1099s. Otherwise,
yeah, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, exactly. Otherwise, it's going to be the SBA handling it.
And you're not responsible for 1099s on loan payments, on any of the, obviously the payments made by the Treasury, you're not responsible for. I don't think Treasury will be issuing that, but that's not your responsibility. The answer is I don't know, so I'm not going to go there. But if they do, there's an offset on that, so your borrower will not be taxed on it. That's the bottom line. Is Congress has said that the IRS has finally agreed to it, and this is not taxable income. I did ask the question that what about for states that are hungry for income tax, notably California and New York, and the consensus I have on that is those two states will be following the IRS guidelines, but I do that with an asterisk. They can always choose to change their tune. Of course, you live in Washington State. What's your no income tax in Washington State, Katie?
No, Washington State does not have income tax. There's not even a form for that, which makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, some states are still exploring this taxing the PPP loans and things like that. I doubt most of them will actually do it, but they are still exploring it.
Well, they're supposed to follow the IRS guidelines. So they can do whatever they want to do, and obviously there's litigation. But I have not. I just put that as an asterisk. It's not out there, but I put that as an asterisk. Hey, House Small Business Committee, any shocks on this? Any changes?
So not too many changes. This is just the Democratic roster. We're expecting the Republican roster a little later. Some new ones are Dean Phillips, Marie Newman, Carolyn Bordeaux, Judy Chu, and Scott Peters. Those are all the new additions to the House Small Business Committee.
If they're your representatives, send them a note, say congratulations. I'm a small business lender. I funded X amount of dollars and created this amount of jobs, and what can I do to help do that? Velasquez has been the chair for how long now? For
several sessions now. What is this, maybe 4 sessions or so? I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, and she was also the chair before. She was a minority when the Republicans were in control, but she was the chair before that. And she's thought of very well. So I think she's done a good job for the program for that. Let's see. This is an interesting story, and I tell us about it. I have mixed emotions on this, but I'll start with the quote. What was the quote that the defense attorney said?
So I don't have it in front of me, but the defense attorney was really saying that she didn't really understand why this case was brought in the first place, and that it really did end up ruining the lives of these 4 bank executives. What was basically happened is this is in relation to the bailout payments, and what happened was this bank had this practice where they would allow some of the loans that were over 90 days past due a waiver so that it wouldn't appear that those loans were necessarily bad loans. And this practice had been going on for quite a while, and they claimed that that everyone pretty much knew about it, and it was how they had handled things for a long time. But when this bank ended up going under, the government, of course, looks at them and sees that they've given them money as part of the bailout and everything like that. And so then that becomes questionable because that's a practice that's not as common as they believed. So for about 10 years, this court case went on and on. Others got involved in it. There's also two officers from the bank who also have been indicted, and I believe they've both pled guilty, actually. So they're probably facing some jail time as well. But in this particular case, what they found was that some of the instructions that were given to the jury were incorrect, and some of the objections were passed over, and they should not have been. So the case could be retried, but currently the court has overturned the convictions. So that the problem there is that we've got already 10 years of these bank executives who were high up in the bank, obviously, who were probably in that age range where they were making some of the largest amount of money that they would be in their life. And now they've had 10 years out of the business. And even if this completely gets overturned, they're probably not going to be able to work in the banking industry ever again.
Yeah. And again, this is not a case where we have someone lining their pockets. This is a case where they're, quote, following loan procedure. The loan procedure was, as Katie said, to take loans that were 90 days due, restructure them to show them current. There may have been a reduction. There may have been an add-on. There may have been additional real estate. So they tweaked it a little bit. And the regulator said, no, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. Obviously, those are issues that need to be addressed. But the defense for a lot of these executives was, hey, I'm following our internal loan policy. And that's what the judge focused upon. So let's see. Let's go to questions. We've got a ton of questions. We know some. We don't know some. On this one, we believe the answer is no for second draw. Sylvester, I will verify that. I know on first draw we didn't care about it, but I think second draw we do. I could be out. I could be out to lunch on that one. This is interesting from Darlene, is now we're starting to get the denials. And Katie, she said she had 2 loans that SBA denied for a dormant business. They want to know what that means. Has anyone else had this denial reason and knows what it means so we can correct it? Darlene, you know as much as we do. I would maybe site visits.
I don't know if I've heard exactly that dormant business phrase yet, but I imagine that probably means they're not doing business. There's maybe some things that aren't up to current. Maybe they haven't been in operation recently. I don't really know what that would mean otherwise.
Yeah, so we just put that, so that's out there. I think there are, obviously, if it's a restaurant that's being closed down by the local government agencies, well, that's one thing. It's another thing if it's a storefront that's shuttered with no opportunity for opening up. That's another thing. But I would definitely, if they are operating, I would definitely talk to SBA about that. Sharon also is getting something called a hold flag, same type of thing. And here the bar was approved for a first draw. And they indicated there was a default with the prior loan 7 years ago. And now they're putting a hold flag on the second loan. And who do we contact or discuss or where to submit documentation to have this reviewed? Again, go to the centers that process that. I know we don't have those emails up front. We do that. Joseph, make sure that we put those up on Monday, make a note. And I'm not that familiar with the rules, but if a default's a default, so I think there are issues. There's no 7-year rule that I'm aware of that says that this can go away. Let's see, we have some more questions. What else do you have, Katie? Do you have any questions there?
I don't have any questions.
We talked about the 1099s and,
Mhm.
talk about PPP first draw loan increases, Katie.
So an increase, that's going to be allowed in certain circumstances where under the new rules, your borrower can receive more than under the previous rules. So in some circumstances, and primarily that's going to be farmers and businesses that are seasonal, they can pick a different time frame to use to base their income on, or the payroll on. So within that different time frame, which has now been expanded, if they can say get a larger PPP loan, then but they've already had a PPP loan, what they'll do is they'll get an increase on that first PPP loan instead of just getting a second draw. I mean, they could get a second draw, but they could also get this increase instead.
The issue is on these questions coming up on 1099s. The issue is you do not need, basically you don't have to issue a 1099. There are exceptions, of course, but as a general rule, if you've charged it off, you've washed your hands, it's gone to Treasury, you don't have to file a 1099. You don't have to do a 1099 on loan payments, and you don't have to do a 1099 on forgiveness. So that's basically where we are in that. When will we use the 350 easy form rather than 350 08S for loans $150,000? Correct, Katie?
Yeah, so if your loan's $150,000 or less, the SBA is saying please use that 3508S because that's going to be just simpler and easier to work through.
Okay.
And again, for those loans under $50,000, that's basically going to be straight away forgiveness. So that's going to be much easier for the borrower and for SBA to go through and everything like that. Basically, those 3508 EZs are going to be for those loans that are slightly larger than that. And then, of course, anybody can use the 3508, the regular plain form, but that does have a lot of documentation that's required. And it will probably take the borrower several hours to go through and fill out.
Donna, also we have the notice attached. If you want to notice, we have that attached. Craig asked the question, what's with the 3508D after the fact? I don't have a response on that. It's an affiliation rule. Obviously, there's affiliation issues. Yes, it's a problem. It's a pain. That's the best I can respond to that. But
yeah.
Obviously,
so that's going to be in the case when there's the rules about whether the business is partially owned or controlled by mostly political leaders and things like that. They're going to have to disclose that if they got a first draw PPP loan, previously and did not disclose that already. On the new form, I believe they already have to disclose that, and that would disqualify them now, but they're not disqualifying previous people who received the loans, and that's the case.
Again, there's confusion on the 1098 versus 1099. The 1098 is the mortgage interest payment that reflects the amount of interest the borrower has paid to your institution. That should all be in your accounting. That's an automatic statement. Just for those of you who have mortgage statements, that's what that is. So that's different than a 1099. All you're doing is reporting the interest expense from the borrower. And I think that's it. So sorry we're as clear as mud on some of this stuff, but we're still sorting through it. Katie, you did an excellent job. Thank you all. Hey, I'll hold these questions over until Monday. As we said, Lance is out. His mom's okay. For those of you who were on the call, she's in the hospital, but she will be okay. Thank you for that. We will be holding the webinar on Tuesday on forgiveness. We'll be going through all that. Also, as a benefit, Katie has revised the forgiveness book, and we will be forwarding that to everyone who attends the webinar as well. So it's up to date. It has all the forms. She did a great job in laying it all out on that. Just send us an email and we can do all the paperwork for you, and that will be on Tuesday. Katie, I hope you have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate your support. And thank you for joining us for Co-Report Live for Subverting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.